The leak hit the internet like a spark in dry grass setting, unstoppable, and burning through every corner of the love and hip-hop universe. A private phone call between Kirk Frost and Mona Scott, the mastermind behind VH1's most explosive reality shows, was never meant to be heard by anyone outside their inner circle. Yet here it was, circulating in group chats, fan pages, and gossip blogs faster than anyone could control. Within hours, hashtags like #KirkLeak and #MonaCall exposed were trending, and fans were demanding answers. What started as whispers in production halls quickly became the biggest scandal VH1 had seen since the Joe's-Line and Stevie era. The audio clip, grainy, tense, and full of half-finished sentences, revealed more than just frustration about contracts or casting. It hinted at a betrayal, a hidden agenda, and a truth that could shatter the entire show's foundation. According to insiders, the call wasn't about next season's budget or storyline tweaks. It was personal. "You knew what you were doing, Mona," Kirk's voice reportedly said, low and strained. Mona's response: "You think you can outsmart me, Kirk? Don't forget who made you relevant." The line sent chills down fans' spines. It wasn't just business, it was war. By morning, the story had already split the fanbase in half. Some defended Mona, calling her a boss protecting her empire. Others stood with Kirk, insisting he was finally exposing how VH1 manipulates real lives for scripted ratings. Even Rashida's silence spoke volumes. She hadn't said a word publicly, but those close to her claimed she was devastated not only by what was said, but by what might come next. And that's where things turned darker. Reports surfaced that an anonymous VH1 producer was ready to talk, claiming the leak wasn't random at all. It was a warning. A warning that someone inside the network was done keeping secrets, and that the truth about Kirk, Mona, and the behind-the-scenes chaos was about to come out in full. Behind closed doors, panic spread like wildfire. Legal teams were mobilized. NDAs were pulled from archives. Cast members were warned not to speak. But it was already too late. The damage was done, and the world wanted answers. So what really happened during that phone call? What did Mona say that had Kirk threatening to walk away for good? And who inside VH1 risked everything to leak it? Stay with us, because this isn't just another reality TV scandal. This is the one that could end a franchise or expose everything it was built on. Under the dim hum of Atlanta's production offices, Kirk Frost sat in his car outside the VH1 building, staring at his phone like it was a ticking bomb. His hands were still trembling from what he'd just heard on that call with Mona Scott. The conversation had started polite, businesslike even, but ended in something raw and personal, something that could ruin both of them. Fans had only heard 30 seconds of the leaked audio, but Kirk knew the full version was worse, way worse. He replayed the last words Mona said before hanging up. "You don't bite the hand that feeds you, Kirk, remember that." The tone in her voice wasn't anger, it was threat, and for a man who'd spent more than a decade playing VH1's game, he finally understood how deep that game went. Inside the studio, whispers ran wild. Assistants avoided eye contact, and producers exchanged nervous glances in hallways. Everyone had heard the leak by now. One of the junior editors claimed she'd seen Kirk storm out of a meeting 2 nights ago after a shouting match with Mona's right-hand producer, Charlene. No one knew the details, but the tension was thick enough to taste. "Something went down," a crew member muttered. "Something they don't want us talking about." Meanwhile, Mona Scott was in her office, pacing, heels clicking against the polished floor. Her phone buzzed, non-stop calls from publicists, VH1 execs, and even old cast members, sniffing for gossip. But the one message that stopped her cold came from an unknown number. "You thought you could bury everything. The world's about to see the truth." She froze, reading it twice, then 3 times. No name, no context. But she knew exactly what it meant. By evening, TMZ had joined the hunt. An unnamed VH1 insider was promising exclusive footage that could expose years of manipulation, hidden payments, and emotional blackmail behind the show's biggest storylines. The gossip blogs lit up instantly. Fans started digging up old interviews where Kirk looked uncomfortable, clips where Rashida seemed on the verge of saying something she later took back. Twitter threads piled up. Someone even claimed they'd seen Mona meet with legal advisors the night before the leak. At home, Rashida sat on the couch, scrolling through comments, her chest tight with dread. She'd been through public humiliation before the cheating scandals, the separations, but this was different. This wasn't just about marriage or love, this was about control. Kirk walked in, looking exhausted, his voice flat. "They got everything," he said. "Not just the call. They got the emails too." Rashida's head shot up. "What emails?" she asked quietly. Kirk hesitated. The ones where I told Mona I was done lying. Rashida stared at him in disbelief. Lying about what, Kirk? He rubbed his face, his voice low. About us. About the storylines. About who really started all that mess on camera. Half that stuff wasn't even real. She made it happen. And when I said I wanted out, she said she'd destroy me. The silence in that room was heavier than any argument they'd ever had. Outside, rain began to fall, tapping against the windows like a slow, nervous heartbeat. Rashida leaned forward. So what now? Kirk exhaled, eyes fixed on nothing. Someone leaked that call to make sure she can't cover it up anymore. And I think I know who did it. The next morning, a new audio clip dropped online. This time, the voices were clearer. Mona could be heard saying, "Don't act like you didn't benefit from the mess, Kirk. Every fight, every tear, every fake breakup you got paid." Kirk's reply was bitter. "Paid? I sold my dignity for a storyline. You used me, and you used my family." The clip ended abruptly, leaving fans spiraling into speculation. Production chaos followed. Crew members were called in for emergency meetings. Mona's assistant was escorted out of the building after rumors spread that she'd been the one who leaked the files. Security logs were checked. Legal threats flew across emails. And yet, someone inside was still feeding the blogs. New screenshots appeared, alleged text messages between Kirk and Mona discussing how to stage scenes for maximum drama. Mona denied everything, calling it a calculated smear campaign, but fans weren't convinced. By midweek, the network's reputation was hanging by a thread. Advertisers began pulling back, demanding answers. Mona's carefully crafted empire was starting to shake. And then came the twist no one saw coming. An anonymous source sent a video to multiple outlets. The footage showed a heated argument in the VH1 editing room from 2 months earlier. Kirk could be seen yelling, "I'm done pretending for ratings," while Charlene, the producer, shouted back, "You signed the papers. You agreed to this." Another voice, faint but unmistakable, could be heard in the background. "Mona's delete that footage," she said. "We can't let that get out." The internet exploded. Delete that footage became a viral meme overnight. Fans flooded comment sections, demanding VH1 free the tapes. Even former cast members joined the pylon, with one tweeting, "We been saying this for years, y'all, just now catching up." Mona tried to calm the storm, releasing a brief statement. "The recent leaks are fabricated and defamatory. VH1 stands by its team and its shows." But the damage was already too deep. Behind the scenes, Kirk was cornered. Lawyers were calling, producers were begging him to make a statement. But Kirk stayed quiet. Instead, he met privately with someone he hadn't seen in years, Rico Brooks, an old friend who once managed multiple artists on the show. Rico had contacts in the press and knew how the game worked. "You're not just fighting Mona," Rico warned him. "You're fighting VH1's whole system. You go down this road, they'll bury you for real." Kirk leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Then I guess it's time they know what they built." That night, Kirk received a new voicemail, no caller ID, just a distorted voice saying, "Stop before you regret it." His stomach dropped. Whoever was behind this leak wasn't just stirring up drama, they were playing both sides. Someone wanted Kirk to speak, but someone else was desperate to silence him. Meanwhile, Mona wasn't sleeping. Insiders said she spent the night making phone calls to network executives, trying to identify who within her circle could have turned. One producer told TMZ that Mona had trust issues with everyone now and was ready to fire half the team. But firing wouldn't fix the mess, because the truth, or at least a version of it, was already out there. In the middle of all this chaos, Rashida made a rare public post. No caption, just a black screen with the words "Enough is enough." Fans flooded her comments, begging her to speak. Some accused her of covering for Kirk, others praised her for staying silent. But what they didn't know was that Rashida had already recorded a private message one meant for Monat would change everything once it leaked. By Friday, VH1 executives had scheduled a closed-door meeting. Kirk was told to attend, though he suspected it was a trap. As he entered the conference room, cameras flashed outside, paparazzi shouting questions. Inside, the air felt cold. Mona sat at the far end of the table, calm, unreadable. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Kirk broke the silence. "So this is how it ends." Mona tilted her head slightly. "It ends when I say it ends." And in that instant, Kirk realized something he hadn't before. The leak wasn't just about revenge, it was about power. Someone wanted to expose how far Mona's control really went. But who, and why now? Outside, the internet buzzed with new theories. Fans dissected every frame of the leaked footage, every pause in the audio. They claimed there was a hidden voice in the background, whispering something like they're watching. Conspiracy threads exploded. pulling in old cast members, executive producers, even VH1's legal team. But the truth was, only a handful of people knew the full story, and one of them was about to speak. As the meeting ended, Kirk's phone buzzed again, another anonymous text. This one read, "If you really want the truth out, check the drive labeled Project 9. He frowned, realizing the message referred to something deep in VH1's archives. A folder he'd heard whispers about years ago, and whatever was inside might not just expose Monette, might expose everyone. He looked up, eyes meeting Mona's across the room. Her expression didn't change, but he could tell she knew exactly what he'd just received. And that's when he understood the war had only begun. When Kirk left that meeting, the parking lot was dark except for the glow of a few camera flashes hiding behind tinted vans. He ignored the noise, climbed into his car, and locked the doors. The message from the unknown number still burned on his screen. Check the drive labeled Project 9. He'd heard that phrase before back in 2019, during a late-night shoot, when one of the editors accidentally mentioned Project 9 in hushed tones before quickly changing the subject. At the time, Kirk brushed it off, but now, he knew it was real and dangerous. He started the engine, but his thoughts were louder than the sound of the car. If that folder existed, it meant VH1 had been keeping records, real footage, unedited confessions, private calls, maybe even things the cast never consented to film. And if someone wanted him to find it, that meant they were either helping him or setting him up. Either way, there was no turning back. He called Rashida. Her voice was low and tired. "Please tell me you're not doing what I think you're doing," she said. Kirk hesitated, watching the rain slide down the windshield. "I have to know what they're hiding," he said. "They've controlled every story, every rumor. I'm not letting them twist mine again." Rashida was quiet for a moment. "Kirk, they'll come after you. Mona doesn't lose." He sighed. "Then she'll have to fight harder." By morning, Kirk had managed to reach one of the junior editors who owed him a favor. TRL, a quiet tech guy who'd been working nights in VH1's post-production suite. They met at a diner just outside the city, away from the studio's usual haunts. Tyrell looked nervous, glancing around before sitting down. "You didn't hear this from me," he muttered, "but Project 9 isn't just a folder. It's a hidden archive. Only Mona and one other exec have access." Kirk leaned forward. "What's in it?" Tyrell swallowed hard. "Everything. Raw tapes, deleted scenes, cast confessions, private calls, even stuff from the producers' meetings. It's like a black box for the whole franchise." Kirk's pulse quickened. "How do I get in?" Tyrell hesitated, then slid a small flash drive across the table. "You didn't get this from me," he whispered. "Plug it into any VH1 system and it'll open a back door. But once you're in, they'll know someone accessed it." Kirk nodded slowly, his decision already made. "Then I'll move fast." Later that night, Kirk drove to the studio after hours. The building was nearly empty, just a few lights flickering in the editing bay. He slipped past the security desk with his old badges still active, somehow, and made his way to the servers. The hum of machines filled the air, a constant mechanical heartbeat. He plugged in the flash drive, and the screen flickered to life. Folders scrolled past episode names, production dates, and then, at the bottom, Project 9. He clicked it open. Inside were dozens of files labeled with cast names, including his own. But one folder stood out, unaired _conversations. He opened it, and there it was, a full recording of his call with Mona, the original, uncut version. His stomach tightened. He hit play. Mona's voice came through first, calm but sharp. "You've always wanted control, Kirk, but control isn't what keeps people watching. Pain does." Then his voice, angry, cracked with emotion. "You crossed a line, Mona. You made me lie to my wife, to my kids, for views. You turned our real life into a circus." Mona laughed softly. "And yet, you kept showing up, didn't you? Because you wanted fame more than freedom." The recording continued, each line more toxic than the last. Then came something Kirk didn't remember hearing before, a third voice. Faint, but clear. "Mona, they're still rolling." And Mona snapped back. "Good, let them." The file ended, but Kirk couldn't move. His heart pounded as realization hit. Mona wanted that call recorded. She'd staged the whole thing, probably knowing it could be used against him one day. And now it had been. Before he could unplug the drive, a door creaked open. Footsteps echoed behind him. "You really couldn't leave it alone, huh?" the voice said. Kirk turned. It was Charlene, Mona's loyal producer. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You think you're the first to dig into this? Everyone who's tried ends up out of work, or worse." Kirk kept his voice steady. "Then maybe it's time someone finished what they started." Charlene stepped closer. "You don't understand. Project 9 isn't just about you. It's about everyone. Mona's been recording things for years. Calls, meetings, private fights. Even executives don't know how deep it goes. Kirk frowned. So why protect her? Charlene's jaw tightened. Because if she goes down, we all do. She reached for the computer, but Kirk blocked her. I'm taking this, he said, grabbing the drive. Tell Mona she doesn't own me anymore. Charlene's eyes darkened. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. Kirk didn't look back. He walked out, the flash drive in his pocket, and the weight of 10 years on his shoulders. By the time he got home, the internet had exploded again. A new rumor was trending that a producer had gone missing after leaking confidential footage. Fans assumed it was Kirk, but the truth was Tyrell hadn't answered any calls since their meeting. His social media was wiped clean. Kirk tried calling twice, no response. The message that followed made his skin crawl. You were warned. Rashida found him sitting in the dark, staring at the blank TV screen. You can't fight them alone, she said quietly. They'll twist everything. They always do. Kirk looked at her, eyes tired but defiant. Then I'll give them something they can't twist. The next day, Kirk contacted a well-known gossip journalist, Tasha K., a woman known for turning whispers into viral chaos. When they met in a quiet hotel lobby, Tasha raised an eyebrow. So you're finally ready to talk? Kirk nodded. Off the record for now, but if anything happens to me, the drive goes public. Tasha smirked. Sounds like we're about to make history, but as Kirk explained what he'd found, her expression changed. You're saying she's been recording everyone, like, without consent? Kirk leaned in. Everyone, including network execs. There's footage of them manipulating cast fights, scripting betrayals, even paying off people to keep quiet. Tasha whistled softly. Baby, you just declared war on television. As they spoke, Mona was already several steps ahead. Her lawyers were drafting cease and desist letters. The network was tightening security, and a team of private investigators was digging into Kirk's every move. One of them had already traced his car's location that night at the studio. She knew he'd been inside. By evening, Mona called her top producer. If he goes public, we're done, she said coldly. So make sure he doesn't. The producer hesitated. How far do you want this to go? Mona didn't blink. As far as it takes. Back at home, Kirk received another message this time, a short video clip. It showed him entering the studio the night before, captured from a hallway camera. Attached was a single line. You have something that doesn't belong to you. Kirk clenched his jaw, deleting it instantly. The walls were closing in, and he could feel it. But somewhere deep down, he knew the truth had to come out, no matter the cost. And as thunder rolled outside his window, Kirk finally opened his laptop and began typing a statement, one that would blow VH1's world wide open. But before he could hit send, his phone rang. Private number. He hesitated, then answered. You're not ready for what's coming, a woman's voice said softly. Mona, he whispered. The line went silent for a beat. Then she said, you really think you're the hero here? And the call cut out. The next morning, Atlanta woke up to chaos. Blogs were flooded with headlines, screaming Kirk Frost breaks silence even though he hadn't posted a word. Someone had beaten him to it. A mysterious account uploaded fragments of the same footage Kirk found in Project 9, the uncut call. The producer arguments, even clips of Mona giving quiet orders during filming. It was all out there, and the world was watching. Mona's phone didn't stop buzzing. Her assistant stood frozen as she scrolled through her feed. Millions of views. Hashtags everywhere. #VH1 exposed. #Project 9 leak. #Mona truth. The air around her seemed to shrink. Who did this? She demanded, voice low but sharp enough to cut glass. No one answered. One assistant finally spoke, trembling. We think it was Kirk. Ma'am. Mona slammed her phone onto the desk. No, Kirk doesn't have the guts for this. Someone helped him. Across town, Kirk sat in his living room, phone blowing up with texts from friends, reporters, even castmates who hadn't spoken to him in years. You started a revolution, bro. One message read. Another said, they're coming for you. Get a lawyer. But Kirk was calm, almost eerily so. He knew he hadn't leaked it, at least not yet. Whoever did was either trying to help him or frame him. Rashida came down the stairs, holding her phone like it was a piece of evidence. It's everywhere, Kirk. The whole world heard her say it. We can't let that get out. You realize what this means? Kirk nodded slowly. Yeah, it means they're finally seeing what we lived through. She sat down beside him, the exhaustion in her eyes matching his. But they'll twist this too. You know they will. Kirk turned to her. Then we'll show them everything. At VH1 headquarters, the atmosphere was pure panic. Executives were calling emergency meetings, trying to figure out how the files got out. The network's head of security confirmed there had been unauthorized access from Kirk's old login. But the trail didn't stop there. Whoever leaked the files had rerouted the data through multiple foreign servers. It was professional, deliberate, and expensive. Someone on the inside helped him, one exec muttered. Mona shot back, "No one inside would betray me." The room went silent. She realized how hollow that sounded. Trust was gone. Even the people she'd built her empire with now looked at her with quiet suspicion. Meanwhile, fans were dissecting every second of the footage. One clip showed Kirk confronting a producer off-camera, accusing her of scripting a fight between him and Rashida. Another showed Mona approving a scene's edit while saying, "Make sure he looks guilty." Social media was ruthless. So it was all fake. One user wrote, "We've been played for years." Others defended Mona, claiming every show manipulates reality. But for the first time, the facade was cracking. Then came another twist. A new file surfaced online, a video titled Project 9_Final. The thumbnail was a blurred image of Mona sitting at a conference table, flanked by VH1 executives. When people played it, they heard her say, "If anyone ever turns on us, we have leverage." And then, faintly, laughter. The network immediately issued takedowns, but it was too late. The video had already spread to every corner of the internet. Fan pages reposted it. YouTubers analyzed it frame by frame. Even mainstream outlets picked it up. CNN ran a segment calling it the most explosive reality TV scandal in years. Kirk's phone rang again. It was Rico. "Man, this thing's out of control," he said. "They're saying Mona's under investigation." Kirk froze. Investigation? By who? Rico lowered his voice. "The FCC. Something about illegal recordings and privacy violations. They're looking into whether she tapped calls without consent." Kirk rubbed his temples. "It's bigger than TV now." Mona, meanwhile, was losing her grip. In one meeting, she shouted at her legal team, "You were supposed to protect me." One lawyer replied calmly, "We can't protect you from evidence that appears genuine." She slammed the table. "Then make it look fake." As the tension escalated, an email began circulating among staff. Subject line, Project 9 Origin. Inside was a message claiming the archive wasn't Mona's idea at all. It was ordered by VH1's corporate arm to monitor cast behavior and prevent lawsuits. If true, it meant Mona was only part of a much larger machine, and that made her furious. "They're throwing me under the bus," she hissed. The following day, a reporter from Rolling Out reached Kirk. "People are saying there's more footage," she said, "something that proves Mona blackmailed multiple cast members. Is it true?" Kirk hesitated. "If I told you everything, you wouldn't believe me." The reporter leaned in. "Try me." He didn't answer. But later that night, a cryptic post appeared on his Instagram story. "Truth isn't always edited for TV." Fans went wild. Every gossip page reposted it, claiming Kirk was planning to release the rest. And just as speculation hit its peak, another piece of footage dropped, this time from a different source entirely. It showed a confrontation between Mona and a female producer in her office. Mona's voice was cold. "You think you can threaten me with those files? Remember who signs your checks?" The producer replied, "Those files don't belong to you. They belong to the people you lied to." And then, before the clip cut out, Mona said, "If you leak anything, you'll regret it." Overnight, the producer's name Charlene was trending. People connected her to Kirk. Old photos surfaced showing them working together during earlier seasons. Rumors flew that Charlene had been the one to leak Project 9 in revenge after Mona blacklisted her last year. No one could confirm it, but the internet had already decided she was the hero of the story. Meanwhile, VH1's stock quietly plummeted. Advertisers froze campaigns. Upcoming episodes were pulled. Entire seasons were under review. Staff were told to stay off social media. The empire that once seemed untouchable was now hanging by a thread. But for Kirk, the chaos wasn't victory, it was fear. He hadn't released the files, yet everyone believed he had. That made him a target from both sides. And when he found his front door slightly open that night, a chill ran down his spine. Inside, nothing seemed stolen except the flash drive. He backed away slowly, realizing someone had been in his home. He called Rashida, voice shaking. "They took it." She froze. "What do you mean they?" Kirk looked around the darkened room. "Someone broke in. The drive's gone." Rashida whispered, "Then it's not over. It's just beginning." The next morning, Mona appeared on Good Morning America, perfectly composed, dressed in soft beige, her tone calm but cutting. "There's been a lot of false information spread online," she said. "I've dedicated my career to giving artists a platform, not destroying them. These so-called leaks are doctored and malicious. But her eyes betrayed her composure. She knew the truth was out there, and she couldn't control where it would go next. As she spoke, Kirk sat watching from home, jaw tight. She's lying again, he muttered. Rashida looked at the screen, then at him. So what now? Kirk didn't answer right away. After a long pause, he said, I find out who really leaked it and why. He didn't know it yet, but the answer was already closer than he imagined, because miles away, in a small apartment filled with old hard drives and VH1 paperwork, Charlene watched the same interview on her laptop, shaking her head. You wanted to play God, Mona, she whispered, but even gods fall. And just as the camera cut back to the hosts, a new notification pinged on her screen, a message from a private account that read, They're coming for both of you next. Part 4 continues as the air around VH1's headquarters thickened with suspicion and silent panic. Production assistants whispered in hallways, clutching their phones like contraband, while executives moved behind closed doors with security at every corner. The leak had not only exposed an unfinished season, but also shattered the image VH1 built over 2 decades. For fans, it was thrilling chaos. For producers, it was war. What no one knew was that the real storm wasn't the footage, it was what the footage led to. Buried inside those leaked drives was a file labeled revisions, and it revealed more than the network ever intended the public to see. It contained raw confessions, unaired confrontations, and a deleted storyline that connected multiple cast members in a scandal so serious legal teams had been fighting to bury it since June. One assistant claimed the file showed a confrontation between 2 longtime producers, one accusing the other of falsifying storylines to protect a network favorite. Those accusations alone could have collapsed VH1's credibility. Yet somehow, despite the severity, higher-ups decided to quietly handle it in-house until now, when the leak made hiding impossible. As the internet replayed every clip, decoding reactions frame by frame, the cast began distancing themselves publicly. Instagram went silent. No statements, no denials, just cryptic posts, deleted comments, and vanishing stories. One former crew member tweeted, They wanted real drama. Now they've got it. The tweet was gone in minutes, but not before screenshots spread across Reddit and Discord, igniting a frenzy of theories. Some fans believed the network had orchestrated the leak to boost attention before a major rebrand, while others insisted it was sabotage from within. But among insiders, whispers pointed toward one person someone fired months earlier after clashing with producers over unethical manipulation of contestants. That person, sources say, had the motive, the access, and the anger. Behind the scenes, VH1 scrambled to trace digital footprints. Cybersecurity teams were hired overnight. Devices were confiscated. Entire servers went offline for scanning. Even long-term editors were locked out of their own systems. The paranoia was palpable. One intern recalled watching a senior producer delete thousands of messages while muttering, They can't trace it if it's gone. But by then, the damage was irreversible. The world had already seen too much. In Los Angeles, gossip outlets began piecing together fragments from the leaked scripts, matching real names to coded references. The public learned that several cast members were allegedly pressured to stage emotional breakdowns, relationships, and even health crises to fit desired story arcs. A former cast member, speaking anonymously, confirmed this, saying, They used our pain like it was a punchline. The quote went viral within hours. Fans who once defended the network now flooded social media with outrage, demanding accountability. One post read, You told us it was reality. Turns out it was just cruelty. But the chaos didn't stop at public backlash. Advertisers began pulling out. Sponsors froze contracts. One luxury brand even demanded their logo be blurred from previous seasons. Executives tried to reassure them that an internal review would resolve the situation. But leaked emails soon surfaced, showing those same executives approving fabricated segments for maximum viewer retention. Those emails became the final straw. Within a week, several senior producers were quietly suspended, though VH1 refused to confirm names. Meanwhile, the cast, many of whom relied on the show for income and exposure, were left in limbo. Filming halted indefinitely, and crew payments were delayed. One assistant claimed her paycheck bounced. Another revealed that production vans were repossessed overnight. The entire operation seemed frozen in panic. Yet even amid the chaos, a few insiders saw opportunity. A new wave of reality hopefuls started posting online, declaring they would bring back the truth in unscripted TV. Independent creators began pitching uncensored alternatives to VH1, promising transparency the old guard never offered. And then came the bombshell that reignited the fire. A small entertainment blog published a segment from the unreleased finale, heated argument between two major cast members that ended with security intervention and one of them storming off set for good. The clip lasted only 42 seconds. But it was enough to confirm that the season's official ending had been completely rewritten. The leaked version showed betrayal, blackmail, and tears. The official one replaced it with reconciliation and smiles. That single clip exposed the scale of the cover-up. Fans began tagging producers directly, demanding explanations. Journalists reached out to VH1 for comment, but were met with a blanket statement. The leaked material does not represent the creative vision or ethical standards of VH1. Yet sources said otherwise. Insiders described how editors were ordered to tone down specific cast conflicts and remove references to lawsuits, debts, and medical issues that could make the network look negligent. One whistleblower claimed these removals were part of a wider cleanup effort to prepare VH1 for an upcoming merger announcement. Inside the editing bay, one terrified employee kept a private log of deleted footage, saving copies on an encrypted drive. When questioned by investigators, he reportedly said, "If I go down, they go down too." That statement, now circulating online, has fueled endless speculation about what else remains unseen. Was their footage even worse than what leaked? Had producers crossed a legal line in how they manipulated real people for ratings? Nobody knows for certain, but industry insiders agree the network's silence speaks volumes. As the fallout spread, rival networks began circling like vultures. Executives from Netflix, Hulu, and even Peacock reportedly contacted key VH1 talent, offering new deals with creative freedom and no censorship. Several cast members have already hinted they might take those offers. A quiet exodus has begun, leaving VH1 scrambling to fill its upcoming slate. The same network once synonymous with glamorous drama now stands accused of orchestrating the very chaos it claims to control. In a final twist that stunned even insiders, a former producer released an anonymous open letter online. In it, they wrote, "The leak wasn't a mistake. It was a warning. What you've seen is only half of what's been hidden." Within hours, the letter disappeared, but not before it was archived by hundreds of fans. Suddenly, every rumor, every half-told story, every suspicious edit from the past decade came under renewed scrutiny. And while VH1's public relations team worked around the clock to craft an official response, the question haunting everyone from fans to journalists to former employees was no longer who leaked it. It was why now. Who stood to gain from exposing the network's secrets at this precise moment, and what were they trying to stop before it aired? The timing was too deliberate, the precision too clean. Whoever did it knew exactly which files to release, which episodes to corrupt, and which scenes would break the internet. This wasn't revenge. It was strategy. And as producers gathered for yet another emergency meeting, unaware that one of their own phones was still recording, the story was far from over. Part 5 continues as that secret recording began circulating in private industry circles within 48 hours. No one knew who sent it, only that it came from an encrypted account with no traceable origin. In the recording, voices could be heard arguing, one male, one female, both clearly senior staff. They were discussing how to contain the fallout and bury the files that connect us to the payment trail. What payment trail? That question became the obsession of every journalist covering the scandal. Within days, documents began leaking, showing large, unexplained transfers from VH1's discretionary budget to third-party vendors that didn't seem to exist. One of those companies was registered under a fake address in Miami. Another shared a P.O. box with a talent management agency tied to multiple cast members. It was clear, someone had been funneling money, and the show's production books had been cooked for years. The leak had started as entertainment gossip, but now it smelled like a corporate crime story. Reporters from Rolling Stone, Deadline, and Variety began publishing exposés faster than VH1 could respond. One journalist described the network as a collapsing empire held together by spin doctors and panic. The higher-ups tried to suppress coverage, sending legal threats to outlets that quoted the recording, but the public had already turned. Fans were no longer just angry, they were investigating. TikTok detectives began analyzing old episodes, comparing wardrobe changes, lighting discrepancies, and sudden storyline jumps that hinted at missing scenes. Every inconsistency became proof that something larger had been manipulated. By this time, VH1's internal communication channels were chaos. Emails leaked showing producers blaming editors, editors blaming corporate, and corporate blaming rogue contractors. One executive suggested firing half the post-production team to send a message. Another refused, warning that mass terminations would confirm guilt. The meeting notes from that discussion, later leaked, described the mood as combustible. One participant wrote, "We're not managing a scandal anymore, we're managing survival." And yet, amid the collapse, one name began to resurface: Taylor Vance, a junior producer who vanished from social media months before the leak. Insiders recalled how Taylor had warned coworkers that the season was crossing ethical lines. She'd refused to approve a segment involving a cast member's real mental health crisis being turned into a scripted breakdown. Days later, she was gone, terminated under confidential circumstances. Now, sources claimed she was the ghost behind the leak. No one had seen her since, but every new revelation pointed back to her access level, her moral objections, her quiet defiance. Forums began romanticizing Taylor as a whistleblower hero, comparing her to figures who exposed corruption in major industries. Hashtags like #JusticeForTaylor and #VH1 Truth trended for days. The network's attempts to discredit her only made things worse. A press release describing her as a disgruntled former employee with delusional claims was mocked relentlessly. One journalist commented, "If she's delusional, why does everything she predicted keep coming true?" The internet agreed. Taylor had become the symbol of everything VH1 tried to hide. Behind the scenes, the legal department grew frantic. A sealed letter from the Federal Communications Commission landed at VH1's office demanding clarification about potential falsification of public broadcast materials. That letter, though not yet public, was confirmed by multiple insiders. The implications were catastrophic. If VH1 was found guilty of falsifying programming presented as unscripted, it could lose major broadcasting licenses. Entire divisions of the company would be at risk. The network's lawyers began negotiating quietly with regulators, offering full cooperation in exchange for discretion. But someone inside leaked the letter to. It was over. The financial consequences hit fast. Advertisers not only pulled out, they demanded refunds for airtime associated with the fraudulent content. Several talent agencies suspended ongoing partnerships, stating they wouldn't let their clients appear on manufactured reality. Investors panicked, stockholders called emergency meetings, and within 3 weeks, VH1's parent company lost nearly 20% of its market value. One insider described the offices as eerily quiet: no laughter, no calls, just dread. But while executives tried to salvage what they could, the public's fascination only deepened. Fans dissected every name, every screenshot, building a digital map of who knew what and when. Podcasts dedicated to the leak sprang up overnight. Anonymous insiders appeared on live streams disguised by voice filters, dropping hints about deeper corruption that goes way beyond one season. One even claimed there were secret tapes from other reality shows projects never aired because their content crossed ethical boundaries too severe to fix. That claim set off a new wave of speculation that the VH1 leak was merely the first domino in a much larger industry purge. Then came the most chilling revelation yet. An anonymous user uploaded a heavily redacted document to an online forum. It was a memo from a network executive dated 6 months before the leak, outlining emergency narrative intervention plans. In plain terms, it described how producers could rewrite ongoing reality arcs mid-season by manipulating cast footage, using staged B-roll to alter emotional context, and paying participants to re-record scenes out of timeline sequence. This wasn't editing, it was psychological construction. Fans realized the shows they loved had never been spontaneous at all. The betrayal felt personal. Comments flooded every platform. "We cried over scripted tears. They played with people's pain for profit. It was never real." As outrage reached its peak, a new account appeared online using the name Truth Control. It began posting never-before-seen clips from multiple unreleased episodes, each one carefully timestamped and what. No one knew who ran the account, but its timing was impeccable. Each post dropped right after VH1 released a new denial. It was as if the leaker was responding in real time, exposing lies within hours. Every post included one cryptic line: "This is bigger than you think." The internet began connecting Truth Control to Taylor Vance. Theories spiraled. Was she working with journalists? Was she inside the network all along, pretending to be gone? Or had a group of employees banded together under her name to keep the exposure going? In desperation, VH1 offered a public bounty, $100,000 for any verifiable information, leading to the identity of the leaker. That move backfired spectacularly. Instead of tips, the bounty inspired a flood of new leaks. Employees who'd stayed silent began submitting evidence anonymously to collect money and revenge. Emails, footage, contracts all pouring out in chaotic waves. One whistleblower leaked footage from an internal rap party where executives joked about ruining lives for ratings. The laughter in that video became the network's death knell. By now, the entire entertainment world watched in stunned silence. Hollywood, accustomed to scandals, had never seen a network unravel so completely, so fast. Even rival executives refused to comment publicly, afraid their own skeletons might surface next. Yet within this collapse, one truth became undeniable. The leak had changed everything. The illusion of reality television had been broken beyond repair. No matter what VH1 did next, audiences would never see it the same way again. And still, one question lingered like smoke. Where was Taylor Vance now? Because if the rumors were true, if she really held the final uncut version of the entire season, the version that no one else had seen, then the world hadn't yet witnessed the most explosive truth of all. And deep inside, VH1's shattered headquarters, a single locked server still hummed quietly, untouched, holding files that could destroy what little remained of the network's empire. Part 6 begins as that locked server finally became the center of every whispered conversation in the shattered VH1 offices. The few remaining staffers, exhausted and frightened, were working under round-the-clock surveillance. Access cards were revoked. Phones were banned from meetings. Even Mona Scott's calls were now monitored by lawyers. She hated it. Sources said she stormed into the building one afternoon, demanding answers from the few executives who hadn't resigned. "You let this get out of control," she shouted, her voice echoing down the empty hallway. "You let Kirk turn a simple phone call into a revolution." One intern claimed Mona's hands were shaking as she spoke, not from fear but from fury. She'd built this empire from the ground up, and now it was collapsing because of a leak she hadn't authorized, a conversation she'd never intended the world to hear. Meanwhile, Kirk had gone completely silent online. No Instagram posts, no interviews, not even a story. His absence only deepened the mystery. Some believed he was negotiating a new deal with a rival network, using the chaos as leverage. Others said he'd gone underground, afraid of legal retaliation. But a third rumor caught everyone's attention, that Kirk was in contact with Taylor Vance. According to a small gossip blog that published screenshots of anonymous DMs, Kirk and Taylor had exchanged encrypted messages discussing Phase 2. No one knew what Phase 2 meant, but within hours of the story breaking, VH1's emergency response team locked down all internal systems. One executive described it as Code Red containment mode. By then, the audience had transformed into an army. Fans didn't just consume updates, they created them. Forums turned into investigative boards. Users shared flight tracking data, production invoices, and alleged text chains between cast members. In one viral thread, a fan claimed to have traced a hard drive shipped from Atlanta to Los Angeles under a false label belonging to a studio subcontractor, the sender's initials, TV, the receiver, a freelance journalist known for covering entertainment, corruption. Every clue seemed to lead back to Taylor Vance. Mona tried to regain control by filming a tell-all special, a desperate attempt to rewrite the story. She sat in a dimly lit studio, eyes sharp, voice steady, explaining that the leak was a tragic breach of trust and the work of outsiders, trying to discredit years of authentic storytelling. But before the episode could air, truth control struck again. Hours before the premiere, they uploaded an uncut version of Mona's interview showing producers feeding her lines through an earpiece, instructing her when to cry, when to pause, when to defend the brand. This special was cancelled minutes before airtime. The network's credibility was gone. As days turned to weeks, VH1's decline became irreversible. Sponsors fled, investors sold their shares, and the parent company prepared for bankruptcy protection. Inside the building, staff whispered that Mona had been offered a private settlement if she agreed to resign and safeguard her silence. But those close to her said she refused, telling one confidant, "They can erase my name, but not my legacy." Still, legacy couldn't fix what was coming next. Because on a quiet Friday night, just after 2 a.m., the Truth Control account uploaded its final post, a video titled "The End of the Lie." It began with static, then a blurred office camera feed showing Kirk Frost entering what looked like a VH1 editing suite. The timestamp was from months before the leak. He placed a small flash drive on the desk, then dialed a number on speaker. "It's done," he said. Mona's voice replied faintly, "Make sure no one ever finds it." Then, after a pause, Kirk whispered, "Too late." The screen cut to black. Beneath the video, one line appeared in white text. The truth was never lost, it was buried. Within hours, every entertainment outlet in America picked up the story. CNN, TMZ, and The Shade Room ran the clip non-stop. Lawyers debated its authenticity, analysts dissected every second, and fans flooded social media with shock, betrayal, and disbelief. Mona disappeared from public view that same day. Kirk's team issued a vague statement claiming the footage was doctored, but even they sounded unsure. One insider admitted privately, "If that drive exists, it's over for everyone." Rumors swirled that federal investigators had opened an inquiry into VH1's accounting and ethical practices. Subpoenas were reportedly sent to former producers and technical staff. Several unnamed employees entered witness protection after providing testimony. One shocking claim surfaced from an insider who said that the original server, the one everyone feared, had been remotely wiped. Not by VH1's tech team but by someone outside the company. The final trace came from a location in New Orleans. Speculation erupted that Taylor Vance had been there, quietly watching the chaos unfold. Weeks later, a podcast host received a sealed envelope with no return address. Inside was a single USB stick labeled Final Cut. The host hesitated for days before viewing it. What they found was a complete, unedited episode from the unreleased season, the same one Kirk and Mona had discussed in their leaked call. It showed everything. Scenes where producers manipulated emotional breakdowns, fabricated love triangles, and staged family confrontations. Even footage of crew members mocking cast reactions during editing. The host described it as a horror film disguised as reality television. The next morning, they turned it over to authorities. After that, VH1 went dark. The channel stopped airing new episodes. Its social media accounts deleted or set to private. Employees were laid off quietly, some escorted out under armed supervision. Mona's mansion in Atlanta was photographed with moving trucks outside, though no one knew where she went. Kirk reappeared weeks later in a brief live session, looking exhausted but defiant. "They tried to destroy me," he said, staring straight into the camera. "But the truth doesn't die. People do." The live ended abruptly. To this day, no one has confirmed who Truth Control really was. Some say it was Taylor Vance working alone. Others believe it was a coalition of insiders fed up with corporate exploitation. A few even claim Kirk himself orchestrated the chaos to reclaim his power and rebuild under a new brand. Whatever the truth, the VH1 scandal changed everything. The network, once known for glamorized chaos, had finally been consumed by its own. And somewhere, in an unmarked studio filled with dusty equipment and forgotten files, a red light still blinked on a recording console, proof that the cameras never really stopped rolling, even when the world thought the show was over. When the lights finally went out on VH1, the silence felt heavier than any scandal. Fans who had spent years watching the show realized they weren't just losing entertainment. They were losing a mirror of everything they once believed was real. The streets of Atlanta, once filled with camera crews and cast cars, now felt like a graveyard of forgotten fame. Even months later, the air around it still buzzed with questions that no one dared answer. What really happened to Mona? Did Kirk and Taylor ever meet face to face? Was the final leak a setup, or a confession? No one knew, and maybe that uncertainty was the point. The story that began with a single phone call had evolved into something much bigger, an entire empire's undoing. What started as gossip turned into exposure, exposure turned into chaos, and chaos became the truth. The more people tried to silence it, the louder it grew. And in that noise, a strange kind of justice emerged. Those who had been exploited, edited, and humiliated for the sake of ratings finally saw the machine crack. They watched the puppeteers get tangled in their own strings. Some insiders say Kirk was offered his own streaming deal to tell his version of the story. Others whisper that Mona is quietly developing a book, rewriting her legacy one chapter at a time. And somewhere out there, Taylor Vance might be listening to all of it, watching the fallout from afar, content to stay invisible. If she was the spark, the fire had already spread far beyond her reach. The industry would never recover the illusion it once sold so easily, because after this, audiences changed too. They began to question what they saw, to demand receipts, to see through the polish. Every tear, every fight, every confession was now suspect. Reality television had turned on itself, and its viewers had become detectives instead of fans. That shift was irreversible. The curtain had been pulled, and the actors were no longer just on screen, they were the executives, the producers, the networks, the people who wrote the lies and called them life. And yet, as the dust settled, something undeniable lingered in the ruins. Curiosity. Human nature still craved the spectacle, the drama, the scandal. No matter how dark the truth became, people couldn't look away. Maybe that's why the VH1 saga still trends months later. Maybe that's why, despite the outrage, fans rewatch old clips, analyzing every detail like prophecy. Deep down, they know the story isn't finished. It can't be. Not until someone finally answers. The question that haunts every leaked clip and every whispered name: who really pressed record first? Until then, the legend of Kirk's secret call with Mona Scott will live on as the scandal that changed everything. The empire that built itself on secrets was destroyed by one. And if history repeats itself, somewhere in another production office, another conversation is already being recorded, another betrayal waiting to leak. So tell me, what do you think? Was Kirk the villain or the victim? Did Mona deserve the downfall, or was she only playing the game everyone else was too scared to play? Drop your thoughts below, because this story belongs to the viewers now. Your comments keep the investigation alive. Your voices decide which truth survives. If you've been following every twist, every rumor, every leaked tape, then you already know this isn't the end. Not for Kirk, not for Mona, not for VH1, because reality doesn't stop when the cameras do. It hides, it mutates, and sooner or later, it resurfaces. So stay alert, keep watching, and don't believe everything you're told. And if you're as shocked as the rest of the world, make sure you hit that like button. Share this video with everyone who needs to hear what really went down behind the scenes. And subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because the truth, it always finds a way out. And when it does, you'll want to be here to witness it first. The aftermath of the leak had transformed into a frenzy that no one could contain. Fans weren't just observing anymore, they were actively investigating, mapping out connections between cast members, crew, and executives like detectives obsessed with a single case. Every post online, every deleted tweet, every cryptic Instagram story became a piece of a puzzle no one knew was so vast. The initial phone call between Kirk and Mona Scott had seemed trivial to outsiders at first. Just another network conversation. But now it represented the tip of an iceberg that stretched across years of scripted chaos, manipulated emotions, and calculated betrayals. Inside VH1, the remaining staff walked on eggshells. Security cameras followed everyone. Emails were filtered through multiple firewalls, and personal devices were confiscated. Yet leaks continued. One anonymous insider shared screenshots of meetings where producers explicitly instructed editors to fabricate conflicts, exaggerate confrontations, and even coach cast members to cry on cue. They want chaos, the insider had written, but they call it reality. The internal memo became viral overnight after someone slipped it to an entertainment blog. The public response was instantaneous: outrage, disbelief, and an unrelenting demand for accountability. Kirk's absence online fueled speculation. Rumors swirled that he had gone into hiding, consulting with lawyers and Taylor Vance, the mysterious figure allegedly responsible for orchestrating the leaks. Some fans claimed to have seen him boarding a private jet. Others swore he was in a remote cabin in the mountains, editing what they believed were new exposed clips. Every sighting was debated endlessly across forums, podcasts, and social media, each theory more dramatic than the last. The uncertainty only amplified the intrigue. Meanwhile, Mona Scott was a ghost in the industry. Paparazzi snapped pictures outside her mansion, but no one knew whether she had fled the country, gone underground, or was quietly plotting a comeback. Insiders described her as furious, focused, and fearless, determined to protect her legacy while rebuilding in silence. Sources hinted she had begun compiling evidence for a tell-all, potentially rewriting the narrative from her perspective. The industry held its breath, wondering if Mona would finally speak or if the final pieces of this scandal would remain hidden forever. Truth Control, the anonymous account that had become a digital specter, continued to release materials with surgical precision. Each upload revealed more than the last: uncut footage of production meetings, edited arguments that showed manipulation of cast emotions, and behind-the-scenes planning that had been erased from the official episodes. Viewers saw producers whispering directions, telling cast members how to exaggerate reactions, how to fake alliances, and even how to fabricate conflicts that had never happened. The scandal was no longer about a single leak, it was about an entire ecosystem of deception that had gone unchecked for years. As the drama unfolded, rival networks circled hungrily. Netflix, Hulu, and Peacock reportedly reached out to cast members, offering deals under the promise of unscripted content and creative freedom. Insiders claimed several key players were already negotiating behind closed doors, plotting to leave VH1 permanently. The exodus only heightened VH1's desperation. Production schedules were thrown into chaos, crews were reassigned, and previously greenlit shows were shelved indefinitely. The network that once thrived on orchestrated chaos now faced the consequences of its own machinations, and then, a new twist emerged that shook the fanbase even further. A small entertainment blog published leaked messages allegedly exchanged between Kirk and Taylor Vance. The messages hinted at a Phase 2, an ominous plan that seemed designed to disrupt VH1 further and possibly reclaim control of the narrative. The cryptic language left fans speculating wildly. Was Phase 2 about revealing more secrets, exposing financial improprieties, or even targeting executives directly? The ambiguity fueled endless theories, each more sensational than the last. Meanwhile, online communities began piecing together a timeline of events that connected the leaked files, the missing footage, and the mysterious phone call to Mona. Fans meticulously mapped production dates, cross-referenced social media posts, and even analyzed lighting in old episodes to uncover what had been removed. Each discovery sparked viral threads, debates, and speculation. Some insisted that certain cast members had been complicit, knowingly participating in staged drama for fame and money. Others argued that everyone was manipulated, victims of a system built to profit from deception. As the scandal expanded, legal repercussions loomed. Subpoenas were rumored to have been issued to former executives, editors, and production assistants. Confidential settlements were allegedly in negotiation, but leaks from legal documents hinted at a tangled web of contracts, non-disclosure agreements, and financial discrepancies. One leaked email suggested that nearly $500,000 had been funneled through offshore accounts to manipulate certain cast narratives. The public was shocked. VH1's attempts to control the story only amplified the sense of betrayal, as viewers realized the extent to which real lives had been engineered for entertainment. Fans began creating their own content, re-editing clips to show unfiltered interactions, reconstructing true episodes, and highlighting inconsistencies across seasons. YouTube channels dedicated to exposing VH1's manipulation flourished. Podcasts dissected every leaked conversation, every production memo, and every rumored secret. The network that once dictated the narrative now watched helplessly as its story was rewritten by the audience itself. Inside the network, panic reached its peak. Executives tried to convene emergency meetings, but no one trusted anyone. Paranoia ran deep. Every employee feared that their emails, messages, and private conversations could be leaked at any moment. One producer was reportedly escorted out by security after being accused of cooperating with Truth Control, though evidence was never made public. The chaos inside mirrored the chaos outside, creating a surreal atmosphere where fiction and reality blurred completely. Amidst the turmoil, Kirk resurfaced briefly in a private livestream. His face was pale, eyes tired, but his voice carried authority. He spoke cryptically about integrity, betrayal, and the consequences of playing with reality. Viewers watched, captivated, debating whether he was a hero, a villain, or simply another pawn in a larger scheme. The livestream ended abruptly, leaving more questions than answers, and reinforcing the idea that the story was far from over. As the weeks dragged on, the leak's consequences rippled through every corner of the entertainment world. Rumors suggested that multiple cast members had secretly hired private investigators to trace the origins of Truth Control. Desperate to protect their reputations, some investigators claimed the trail led to multiple states, digital dead ends, and even overseas servers, fueling the idea that whoever orchestrated this had planned it meticulously. Fans online theorized endlessly, analyzing timestamps, background noises in videos, and subtle gestures captured on old footage, each detail becoming evidence in a sprawling digital courtroom. Meanwhile, VH1's remaining executives tried a last-ditch effort to regain control. They announced a special investigation series, promising to reveal the facts behind the leaks and reassure viewers that the network still operated with integrity. Production notes for the series were leaked within hours. Insiders revealed that executives were instructed to downplay financial mismanagement, avoid discussing the manipulation of cast members, and spin the narrative as if the leaks were the work of a single rogue employee. The public immediately saw through it. Hashtags like #VH1Lies and #RealityExposed began trending, showing that fans were no longer willing to accept half-truths. Taylor Vance, still the phantom figure in this saga, became a legend online. Supposed sightings, fake interviews, and cryptic social media accounts kept her presence alive in fans' imaginations. Speculation reached fever pitch when one leaked email hinted that she had obtained all the unaired footage, the real director's cut of the season, showing unedited arguments, private confrontations, and the moments producers had tried hardest to erase. viewers realized that everything they had seen on air was just the tip of the iceberg. What remained unseen was far more explosive, more intimate, and more damning. Kirk remained a key figure in the unfolding chaos. He reportedly consulted legal experts, strategized with insiders, and monitored fan reactions to every leak. Sources claimed he was not only aware of Taylor's actions, but may have tacitly supported them to reclaim control of his narrative. Rumors surfaced that he was planning a digital platform to release the uncut footage independently, promising viewers transparency and raw reality. The mere thought sent VH1 executives into panic mode. Amidst this tension, the cast's personal lives became collateral damage. Relationships previously hidden from the public were exposed through leaked texts and photos. Fans learned about betrayals, secret alliances, and behind-the-scenes rivalries that had been edited out of the official episodes. Some cast members faced backlash from friends and family who felt betrayed by their participation, while others were accused of orchestrating their own storylines for fame. Every revelation blurred the line between victim and perpetrator, leaving the audience unsure who to trust. The media capitalized on the frenzy. Late-night shows, podcasts, and viral videos dissected every clip. Commentary videos analyzed gestures, intonation, and facial expressions frame by frame, presenting theories about hidden motives and alliances. One particularly viral analysis suggested that a key confrontation, supposedly scripted for drama, was in fact real and had been manipulated in post-production to protect a high-profile cast member. The audience was captivated, sharing screenshots, editing their own versions, and debating endlessly across multiple platforms. In a shocking development, a freelance journalist revealed a cache of internal VH1 emails, suggesting that senior producers had not only manipulated storylines, but also colluded with advertisers to favor certain narratives. The leaked correspondence hinted that cast members' personal hardships were sometimes exploited to boost ratings, all while executives reassured sponsors that the content remained authentic and unscripted. The revelation sent shockwaves through the industry, forcing other networks to examine their practices and sparking debates about ethics in reality television. Meanwhile, Truth Control continued its relentless campaign. New uploads surfaced almost daily, raw footage from rehearsal rooms, deleted arguments between producers, and audio clips of executives mocking cast members' emotional breakdowns. Fans dissected each video, piecing together timelines and identifying individuals involved. The obsession became global. Online communities grew, with thousands of users actively collaborating to map the scandal, creating detailed charts, linking producers, cast, and executives to every leaked scene. VH1's response was increasingly desperate. Emergency meetings became commonplace, staff turnover skyrocketed, and attempts to suppress leaks failed spectacularly. One insider reported that an executive suggested hiring hackers to trace Truth Control, a plan quickly abandoned when it became clear the account operated across multiple countries using encrypted servers. The network's attempts to regain narrative control only amplified the leak's impact. Amidst this chaos, Mona Scott was rumored to be preparing her own statement, a detailed account meant to reclaim her legacy. Yet every attempt was thwarted by new leaks exposing the same events from alternative angles. Fans debated whether she was truly innocent or complicit, while entertainment journalists speculated that any forthcoming statement could be her final opportunity to control the narrative. Meanwhile, Kirk's potential platform for releasing the uncut season remained under wraps, building anticipation among fans who had already consumed every leaked detail and hungered for the final unfiltered truth. Tensions inside the network reached a breaking point when reports emerged of conflicts between remaining executives. Some wanted to cooperate with authorities, others pushed to sue whistleblowers, while a few advocated for quietly paying off key insiders to suppress further leaks. One leaked memo described a heated argument in which a senior producer shouted, "We built this empire on manipulation, and now manipulation is the only way to survive." The internal discord mirrored the chaos outside, reinforcing the notion that VH1's collapse was not just a scandal but an existential crisis for the network itself. Fans' obsession reached a fever pitch when leaked footage allegedly showed Taylor Vance meeting with Kirk in a secret location, though blurry and unverified. The clip suggested a collaborative plan to expose the network fully while simultaneously positioning Kirk to control the aftermath. Speculation ran rampant. Were they allies, adversaries, or strategically aligned enemies? The ambiguity fueled debates, conspiracy theories, and online communities dedicated to theorizing what would happen next. As the saga dragged on, the cultural impact became evident. Reality television, long a genre built on manipulation and spectacle, was exposed in a way the world had never seen before. Viewers began questioning every show, every story arc, every unscripted moment they had ever consumed. The scandal transcended a single network, reshaping how audiences approached media, trust, and celebrity narratives. Inside VH1, the remaining employees navigated a world of fear, uncertainty, and constant scrutiny. Rumors of resignations, firings, and legal action dominated internal communications. Executives struggled to keep the remaining cast on board, while security teams monitored staff around the clock. The atmosphere was one of paranoia, as everyone wondered who might leak the next bombshell, what new footage might emerge, and which secrets would finally surface. And so, as the world watched, debated, and theorized, the story continued to unfold. The scandal that began with a single phone call between Kirk and Mona Scott had spiraled into an intricate web of secrets, betrayals, and revelations that no one could ignore. The power dynamics had shifted. The audience had gained unprecedented access to behind-the-scenes realities, and the very notion of reality television had been irrevocably changed. As the dust finally settled over VH1, the saga of Kirk's secret call with Mona Scott became more than a scandal. It became a lesson in how fragile the illusion of reality really is. Fans who had followed every leak, every clip, every cryptic post realized that what they had been watching for years was only a shadow of the truth. The cameras, the scripts, the spontaneous drama, all carefully orchestrated, all manipulated. The network that once thrived on controlling perception was now completely out of control, its secrets exposed to the world in relentless waves. And yet, even with the chaos, the story wasn't entirely over. Questions remained unanswered, hanging in the digital air like smoke. What exactly was on the final server? Did Taylor Vance still hold the uncut footage? Had Kirk and Mona ever truly reconciled? Or were their dealings entirely strategic? Fans speculated endlessly, analyzing old clips, scrutinizing social media behavior, and even revisiting episodes they thought they knew inside and out. Each new theory added layers to an already complex web of intrigue, ensuring that the story would live far beyond the initial leaks. The impact extended beyond VH1. Other networks suddenly faced intense scrutiny, as viewers began questioning the authenticity of their favorite shows. Reality television as a genre had been forced into a mirror, reflecting its own flaws, manipulations, and ethical compromises. Producers, editors, and executives across the industry became wary, knowing that any misstep could be dissected and exposed. It was a revolution in viewership, a shift from passive consumption to active analysis. The audience had gained unprecedented power, and the industry would never forget it. Inside the hearts of fans, emotions ran high, anger mixed with fascination, betrayal with curiosity. Forums, Reddit threads, and YouTube comment sections became battlegrounds for debates. Was Kirk a mastermind, a victim, or both? Was Mona a genius, a manipulator, or a pawn in a larger game? Was Taylor Vance the hero the industry needed, or a rogue agent with her own agenda? Every answer seemed temporary, every opinion subject to change with the next leak or revelation. The family was left divided, allegiances questioned, and reputations redefined in real time. And here's where you, the viewer, come in. This story isn't just about watching from the sidelines, it's about engagement, perspective, and participation. Your voice shapes the narrative now. Every like, every comment, every share keeps the investigation alive. By weighing in, you join millions of others who refuse to take the surface-level explanation. You dig deeper, you challenge assumptions, and you keep the spotlight on the truth. The drama that began with a single call has grown into a movement where viewers are the detectives, the analysts, the critics. So take a moment, reflect on everything you've seen: the leaked footage, the behind-the-scenes manipulations, the betrayals and alliances. Think about the way reality television constructs emotion, the ways in which stories are edited, and the consequences for those involved. Then, engage. Comment below with your theories. Share what you think happened in that final conversation between Kirk and Mona. Tell us who you believe was truly in control, and who was the puppet. Your input doesn't just add to the discussion, it helps preserve the history of a scandal that reshaped an entire industry. And don't stop there. Hit that like button to show that you're following every twist, every leak, and every revelation. Subscribe to this channel to stay updated as new details emerge. Because in a story like this, the truth doesn't stay buried for long. The next twist, the next revelation, could happen at any moment, and you want to be here to witness it first. Share this video with friends, family, or anyone who loves drama, intrigue, and behind-the-scenes revelations. Every share spreads the story further, making sure the lessons of manipulation, exposure, and accountability reach a wider audience. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just entertainment, it's a reflection of power, control, and consequence. VH1's empire may have been shaken, its secrets exposed, but the legacy of this scandal lives on through those who demand transparency and truth. And you are a part of that legacy. By engaging, analyzing, and questioning, you keep the conversation alive. You hold the powerful accountable. And you ensure that no story, no matter how carefully constructed, can remain hidden forever. So what will you do? Will you simply watch, or will you become part of the unraveling? The drama has already changed reality television. The leaks have shifted power from executives to audiences. The question now is whether you will let it pass, or whether you will step into the story, make your voice heard, and continue the legacy of exposure and truth. Comment, like, subscribe, share, and never stop questioning what lies beneath the surface. The truth, after all, is still unfolding, and your eyes, your mind, and your voice are part of it.